I'm really honored. Julie kept asking, my wife Julie was here with my daughter Carly and my dad. She kept asking me, are you excited yet? Are you thinking about it? And I'm like, no. And then I walked in here and realized how moved I am, and how touched I am, and how important this is, and what it means to me. And it's a deep, deep honor. And I'm looking at Robert because he's got one too. And, anyway, so I've got a few things I want to say. First is, I was reflecting on how I got into this organization, and if anybody had told me when I was growing up in Lima, Peru, as a boy, that I would meet a guy in a 12-step meeting in Tucson, Arizona, who was a Persian, who lived in New York, who had long hair and looked like Al Pacino or Ronnie James Dio, and had feather earrings, and said something that interested me in 1991, and that as a result of that chance meeting in that room, that one day I would be here 26 years later having a conversation about transforming men's lives. You would have thought that whoever was saying that was absolutely out of their mind, right? But one of the things that we do in the work is that we invent and create the impossible for men. You know, we take a boy who has a life that he thinks is predictable and scheduled and structured in one particular way, and we think it's going in one direction. And because of the things that happen as intervening events and meetings and chances and relationships, their lives get completely turned in new directions. And I have witnessed that not only in the world of MKP, but in the world of transformation. I have witnessed that probably 100,000 times in my lifetime. And it is incredible. And it's a miracle every single time. And so I forget that the work we do is miraculous. It's miraculous. So thank you to Dennis Mead-Shikeli for, responding to my question, which is, what is it that you do exactly? And he said, I do men's work. And then I asked him, well, what is that? And he handed me that crumpled card and said, make an appointment, come to my office, and I'll tell you. And then 6 months later, I went to San Diego and participated in the New Warrior Training Adventure, and the rest is history. I knew in that weekend, I was telling somebody, I think Martin today, that in that moment, when I was on that weekend, that I had found the work that I was called to do. In my body, I knew it at a cellular level, and it was easy for me then to just go do that. I was so grateful. Carl Greaser and Martin Marks were my wingmen for 3 years. Martin served as the vice chair, and Carl was the executive director, and I could not have done anything without you men being there for me. I'm really grateful for that. Thank you for coming. Kirby, about 10 years ago, somebody said to me, you need an elder mentor. I didn't know what that was. I was 49 then, I just turned 59. And they said, you need somebody who can teach you how to really grow up, how to claim the next part of your life, which was coming. And I called him and asked him, and he said yes, and you've been an incredible teacher to me. Kirby and Judy, you've been an incredible hostess to me every time I've been there. Really grateful for how you blessed me and loved me. Thank you for that. I want to give credit where credit is actually due about the open circles. I was on a ski chairlift in Taos, New Mexico with my friend Stephen Trezza, who was in my I group at the time. And we were riding up, and he said to me, why don't we open our group? Why aren't we opening our circle to other men? And we had a conversation, and out of that grew the Open Circle Initiative, which we started here in Tucson with Stephen and Thomas Saylor Brown and a guy named, I can't remember, Sean Stushin. The four of us sponsored an open circle for weeks and months, and nobody showed up except the four of us. And then they started coming. And it was after that that I took that to Glen Ivy. So you men are here. You've been a huge part of my life. I'm really grateful. Thank you. One of the things Dennis said to me early on, he said, I know who the men are who will carry me across the river when I die. I never knew who those men were going to be. But in MKP, I discovered who those men were. And many of the men, in fact, all of you men, if you survive me, and I hope some of you do, I know that you'll carry me across the river. And I'm really comforted by that. Because I know that I will be cared for, and my family will be cared for, and my work will go on, and our work will go on. I'm really, really grateful for that. So my I groups, the men from my I groups are here. My old I groups and my current I groups. I'm really grateful that you men are in my life. Again, I'm going to give credit to Treza. You are the source of my life. Those groups source my life. Incredible importance. I want to talk about my dad for a minute. Esteban Daranyi is 88 years old. He's here tonight. He lives in Tucson. He's just gone through his own initiations, several of them in the last year. He lost a partner that he had for 16 years. She died of cancer. He closed his business after 42 years. He moved from his home into a new place to live, making a transition. So, you know, we talk about initiation like we know what initiation is. And the plain fact of the matter is we only know this much. And he is teaching me what other initiations look like. And I'm just honored and grateful that you're here and that you've been a stand for me my whole life. What I always say about you is the dad that I longed for as a boy is in my life today. And that is an incredible gift. I'm so grateful. Thank you. I love you, Pops. I wish every so that's my DNA, right? And he looks pretty good. He looks good. By the way, I had other clothes on tonight, and then I had to go through the Martin Marks gauntlet. And so did my wife. And neither one of us passed. We had to change before we could leave the house. Thank you, Martin.
Welcome, and you look so good.
Thank you. I want to talk about my wife and my daughter. We're both here. For every year except the last almost 2 years, I left a lot. I left once a month, probably on average, to go do something that was MKP related. Either go to a weekend or some meeting or run some workshop, and it cost you something. And I know that it cost you something. And by the way, it also happened in my previous relationship. And I'm really grateful that both of you were willing to pay the price so that I could go do the work that I was called to do. And my hope is that it's also been a gift for you. It was definitely a gift for me. And
We loved it when you were gone.
I know. I was going to say that. But you beat me to it. And my belief is that the work we do lands really, really hard on the home front. A lot. And I think at times we forget to acknowledge those who we leave behind every weekend. And so thank you for the way you supported me through all of it.
And we missed you.
You missed me a little. Yeah. I want to talk about Chartosi. This is hard. So my mom died almost 2 years ago, this week actually. And I was never really, really close to my mom. I wanted to be closer to her, but I had a hard time being close to her. And so as a result of you moving to Tucson with Rich, I had an opportunity to be in a relationship with a woman who carried so much of the energy that I had missed as a boy growing up and that I had longed for. And you have become an important female, feminine ally for me in my life. And that you've opened your heart and your home to me and allowed me to, invite myself over repeatedly has been great. And I'm really touched. Thank you and let me into your family, and let me love you and Rich and your sons and your grandkids. You've been an extension of my family and of my life, and it's meant a lot to me. Thank you. So the founders, you heard from Bill and from Rich a little bit, and I want to tell you a little more about Bill and Rich, because we forget what happened in 1985. We know, wow, MKP was founded, now almost 35 years ago, and my dad asked Bill tonight, like, how did this start? Where did this come from? And so the short version I like to say is that 3 guys gathered in a kitchen in Milwaukee and realized that there was a missing for men, and that they were going to create something that was transformational and healing for men. And they did. They created something, and then they invited 18 of their friends to a weekend in Hamer Woods outside of Chicago and Milwaukee. And the weekend worked, and then you did it again, and then you did it again. And even though we make light of the fact that we have this rigidity and these protocols and these things that are important to us, the plain fact of the matter is, if you men hadn't gathered to do that, none of us would be in this room tonight. That's just a fact. And nearly 70,000 other men would not have had that experience, and their lives would not have been touched. And so I don't ever want to miss or minimize the importance of the events that gathered you 3 men in that room. I am eternally grateful to you, and I speak on behalf of every man who's gone through that weekend. Thank you for doing that.